Welcome to session 4 of the podcast guesting masterclass. I am your host, Jessica Rhodes, the founder and co owner of Interview Connections, here to teach you live this week how to get clients and build your brand with podcast guesting. As we are getting started here, I'm so excited. We have an incredible panel. We should have about 5 of our clients from Interview Connections here to share with you their story of using podcast guesting to grow their business. These are your peers. These are other entrepreneurs who, just like you, many of them found us through this masterclass, or they heard about us from a friend and decided to invest in their visibility. And they are so happy they did, and they cannot wait to tell you all about it. So if you have any questions for me or for our panel, just put them in the chat and we will do our best to get all of your questions answered. Now, I want to go through what it looks like to work with us, because if you are excited about what you have learned so far this week and you want to get booked on podcasts, you know that when you speak to your target audience, that your business grows. Then working with us at Interview Connections to get you booked is the key to really doing this so much faster than if it was another task on your plate. Nobody needs more tasks on their plate. So when you work with us at Interview Connections, you will get booked on podcast guaranteed. We have 2 main packages, a package of 30 podcast interviews and a package of 48 podcast interviews. We are going to design your podcast one sheet. We talked about that in session 2 in the media training. To be media ready for podcast appearances, you need to have a really great one sheet that has your bio, it has your topics and your questions. We'll make a media kit for you. So we're going to do all of that for you in the onboarding process. We're also going to create a podcast success blueprint that will outline what are the types of podcasts that would be a good fit for you. And you'll have a point of contact on our booking team that meets with you, they will get to know you, really understand you and your message and your business so that we know exactly the right types of podcasts to get you on. So when you work with us, you have your own agent, which is very fun and very cool. And then we start pitching and booking you. You get on 3 to 4 podcasts every single month guaranteed. We connect you with those hosts via email. And then all you have to do from there is schedule the recording and implement all of the relationship building tips that we talked about in this masterclass so you can get clients and grow your brand through podcast guesting. Every 10 interviews that we book for you, you'll get an interview audit. And that's where your point of contact will listen back to an episode that you've done, give you personalized feedback and coaching. Session 2, the podcast guest media training, was basically 8 of the things that we listen for when we're auditing our clients' interviews. Things like your confidence, your tone, your language, your body language, your call to action, how you're communicating with the podcast host to make sure there's a nice conversational chemistry going on. So definitely check out session 2 if you haven't yet. And that is what you're going to get from working with us, an interview audit. Now, there are discounts and bonuses when you sign up and you make your investment by Monday, September 15th at midnight. You'll get basically up to $1,500 off the investment. So the package of 30, if you do the 30 bookings, is if you pay in full, 15,500, or you could do 10 payments of 1,750. And the package of 48, if you pay in full, it's 24,000 or 12 payments of 2,097. So those are the 2 packages and what the investment looks like. If you're one of the first 3 people to pay in full by Monday, I will also personally audit one of your interviews. So you'll have personalized feedback and coaching from me. And then if you pay in full, we will write your one sheet for you. So your bio and your topics and your questions, you'll get that all done for you. And then everyone who signs up is going to get our equipment bundle, which is the microphone, a microphone stand, as well as a ring light. So go to interviewconnections.com/call to schedule a consultation call. It'll most likely be with me on Zoom or Margie, and we'll talk about your business, your goals for podcast guesting. If you're at all unsure or have some questions, just schedule a consultation call. We'll talk it through and get all of your questions answered. So Without further ado, we're going to get into our panel. Give me a yes if you're excited to hear from the speakers that we have here today. Say yes in the chat. And I'm so excited. We have our first speaker is Catherine Spears. I love Catherine. She is a nervous system regulation expert. She is a chief marketing officer. I'm going to go ahead and unmute her and bring her up to the stage. Everyone, welcome Catherine to the podcast guesting masterclass. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Jessica. It's so great to be here today. I can't wait to share my experience.
Me too. Me too. So I remember when it wasn't that long ago that you signed up with us. I think you were in this masterclass. And how were you feeling when you were making the decision to sign up with us? Bring us back to where our audience is now. Where were you?
Yeah, I was pretty well established in my business. It was up running. And really, up until then, I was relying heavily on the standard marketing foundations, email, social media, networking, collaborations. And my hesitation was really like, oh, I'm going to have to add something else to my plate. And it's really completely shifted all of those things and actually created more ease for me in my business and in my personal life, especially where there's really a huge educational component to what I do. And I knew that I needed to get in front of new people without having to really hustle and grind in the social media space. Um, and then the other piece is I was really craving that like deeper connection and conversational aspect, which, I wasn't getting as I was kind of like speaking into the abyss on social media. And so that was kind of like my biggest thing, I just was looking for that more connection and yeah.
Yeah. And I think you share with me you always had this thing in your head like pass me the mic. Can you share about that?
Yeah. So before I got into what I'm doing now, I was really into like fast-paced startup, always in marketing, operations, like customer success roles and leading. And I always loved to like bring people together and present and chat and talk and share my story, especially as a verbal processor, which has been really enlightening as I've gone through podcasting
And
because
can you
it's such a
explain
great
what a
mirror.
verbal processor is just for those who don't know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I really like can get to what I want with clarity by talking it out. So really kind of like riffing and talking is the way that I love to kind of land on what I'm trying to say. And then when I was podcasting and started, it was so clear to me the things that I say all the time, or the way that I say it, or the message that I was trying to share. And for so long, I had been trying to like really find that. And then it just bubbled up to the surface so easily when I really just started to show up on podcasts and having really like organic conversations.
Yeah. And so now I want to get into the experience of working with us and kind of what it looks like. One of the biggest questions we get asked a lot is like, how long will it take? Like the ramp up period? Like, what was your experience in getting booked and then seeing an ROI?
Yeah, so I mean, my expectations are always really high coming from like my background experience working both on agency and brand side. So you guys exceeded that, which is really cool. I always find the team is 1 to 2 steps ahead of me, which is a huge help because from like an energetic and like output support of somebody that's in a leadership role or an entrepreneur, you're already wearing many hats and you're already like thinking about what's next, making sure the I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, and having the team. Like, I didn't find that gap there. Sometimes you work with people and there's that gap that you're like constantly like, did you think about this? Did you think about that? And that has never been the case with Interview Connections. So it's taken such a load off of me. Like, I don't have to have that always on thinking cap. I know that you guys have it ready for me, sorted, locked, and like so many times, my person will be like, hey, just checking in. Like the proactivity of it has been very helpful and the communication is top notch.
Yeah, that's such an energy drain when you hire someone or invest in a company and you're just always having to follow up. Like, did this get done? Like, always having to check. Like, it's such an energy drain. So I love that you said
It
like we're always
is.
on top of it because that's what our goal is as a concierge level done for you service. We want our clients to sign up knowing that they don't have to also be thinking about like, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? That's one of the top testimonials we get is like, you guys did everything you said you were going to do and more. So I love that.
Totally.
And then talk about your successes and the wins. I mean, you're only like halfway through your first package with us. Maybe not even like because we're
Not
early
even.
on.
Not even. Yeah. Which is kind of bananas. So sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, talk about your wins. Like what are your wins that you've experienced from being a guest?
Yeah. I think the biggest for me is, well, from a personal perspective, over the summer, I was actually able to do something that I've always wanted to do, which was step back a little bit from my business. And we RV'd with my two kids for the summer. And what was amazing was like while I was RVing, like my episodes were dropping and the assets were coming through. And so the momentum kept going when I was able to kind of like take my foot off of the gas and just having that peace of mind that like my visibility was still there and my authority and awareness was still building was huge. And then from a business perspective, also that was a huge win to be able to just like, shift down a few gears. And my biggest win is on a random Saturday, I received a DM from someone that had listened to one of my podcast interviews. It was one of my first four. And at that point, I had eight booked, and she was my ideal client, and no discovery call was required. She just was like, how do I sign up to work with you one to one? And that alone, that close was a $25,000 close for me, which I would have had to hustle so much harder for anywhere else. She just felt immediately connected to my story, immediately connected to what I do and what she desired and what she needed in her business. And I'm still working, I'm 4 months in working with her. And she's like, I am so glad that I found that podcast that day. So, yeah.
I
That's my
love
biggest
that.
one.
Everyone say yay in the chat for Catherine because that is so, so huge to have somebody. Number one, I love that you got to take some time off this summer and be offline and have your podcast going live. I also noticed that there are, there's ebbs and flows with how like active we are on social media. And I was also realizing that for myself. I was like, oh, we still have consistent downloads of our podcast, but I'm like, oh, it's probably because I've done all these podcast interviews that are dropping. So our past, like when we're guests on podcasts, our past selves are marketing for our current selves. And it is really, really fun to be able to take time off and be like, oh, people are still listening to my episodes. They're finding me. That's amazing. And then to have somebody hear you on a podcast, send you a DM and just say yes, that is huge. What tips do you have for entrepreneurs here who are planning to or thinking about working with us, who also want to see an ROI like that, have clients reaching out? Obviously, there's energetics and there's just being in alignment and being a match, but any tips you can offer for folks that want to see results like that too?
Yeah, I think just like really showing up vulnerably, which is so much easier said than done, of course. I know this, I've done a lot of work around this to show up as a podcast guest myself. And just really, I think the biggest is the match of the podcasts that I was speaking on, like I knew that I was in front of my target audience. I had the utmost confidence that I was speaking directly to my audience, which made it a lot easier. I wasn't trying to fit, a round peg in a square hole. I just knew that when I was showing up to my podcast guesting experiences, that the connection was key with the hosts and with also the people that were listening. And so it made it really easy.
Yeah, I love that. Catherine, can you tell everyone like what you do? I don't know if we really covered that. And how they can connect with you. If anyone in the audience is feeling that connection of like, oh, I really like her vibe and she's a very calm presence. You do.
Yeah,
How can
thank
they find you
you.
online?
Yeah, so you can find me at beyondyourmindset.com. I typically work with really it's a past version of myself. I was and still am high performance. However, I'm now high performance with my nervous system on board. So I am a neurosomatic practitioner and I support human first, mission based, purpose driven leaders and brands to bring their business dreams to life through their purpose with aligned nervous system. So it really gets into the applied neurology and somatics of it, which is a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And Spencer's asking, how long did it take to gain a following and subscribers? What do you, Spencer? I'm guessing you're asking specifically how long did it take for Catherine to gain gain a following online? Maybe you could specify that. But it was her fourth podcast interview that generated. Yeah, maybe just talk about briefly your business history. Like, how long did it take for you to like gain a presence online and a following of your business, even before signing up with us a few months ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a work in progress, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just continuing to grow and build and showing up as I am and having faith in them coming. If you follow me on Instagram, you know, I'm not like this big viral sensation or anything like that. It's all about, for me, quality over quantity, and just continuing to show up in my purpose and share what I'm doing. So I think, I mean, I'm trying to think of. I left corporate about 4 years ago. Um, so I would say like a year or so, but
Yeah.
it's quick, you know, if you're in the right place at the right time and you're showing up consistently in alignment, it's very easeful. I will say that
I
for
love
sure.
it.
Yeah,
I love it. Thank you so much, Catherine. I just
thank
put
you.
Catherine's Instagram in the chat because we were just talking about like following and everything, so you can connect with her. And then, Catherine, if you can drop a link to your website in the chat so folks can reach out, that would be
Absolutely.
awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. And if you want to also see your business grow, be able to be marketing in a way that feels easeful so people just connect with you naturally and reach out and say, I want to work with you one on one. What does it look like? If that feels good to you, schedule a consultation call at interviewconnections.com/call. Next up, we're going over to the tech world, folks. We got Thurman Trotman. Thurman, I'm going to ask you to unmute and bring you up to the stage.
Jess, appreciate that. Um,
Yes.
so something Catherine said, caught my ear, and I wanted to focus on that real quick because, um, anytime I come to one of these panels, I always like to talk about music. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, and it was like central to my life for a really long time. But the connection that you make on a podcast, like if you think about either when you were a kid or your kids now, how someone that they listen to, some musical artist that they listen to, how they pay attention more to that person than they might to you. Like that person might give advice through the song and they're like, "Oh man, this is gold because my favorite artist said it." The reason why that artist is able to do that is because of that connection they get to make through the music. They stick the music, they stick the headphones inside of their ears, and now granted, they play the music over and over so they get an attachment. But I think personally myself, I don't, even though podcast is in video, I don't think there's anything like audio. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talk about books to music to movies, I think the books are better because you got to use so much of your imagination. Audio to me is better because you got to use your imagination while you're listening. And podcasts are still audio even though they have video. The reason I'm bringing this home is because, or talking about this, is because you get to create a connection like I can't think of another area where you get to create a connection that you can on a podcast, especially if you go in there talking like you're just having a conversation. If you get out of that interview mode and you just talk like you're having a conversation, it's so much more easier for you to relax, and it's way better for the person that's listening to tune in. So, if you were going to ask a question in that realm, Jess, I just wanted to say that if you
Yeah.
if you want to get into the world of podcast guesting, just think of you having scheduled conversations with people instead of
Yeah.
interviews. Don't think of it as interviews. But that's what you got.
Absolutely. Let's make sure everyone knows who you are, Mr. SharePoint.
Yes,
Tell
sorry,
everyone.
sorry.
No, it's
Um,
okay. We captured them with that metaphor, and now
all right, good deal. Yeah, my name is Thurman Trotman, and what I do is I help businesses use a tool called SharePoint. You probably never heard of SharePoint, but you've definitely heard of Microsoft. And if you pay for the Microsoft 365 suite, there is a tool inside of there called SharePoint. It's, to me, one of their best kept secrets. And if you've worked for the government, you probably heard of it. But if not, you probably haven't. But it's a super powerful tool that if you pay for Microsoft 365, you already pay for it. So what I do is just bridge the gap between, knowing how to use it and not. Because for years, I use it as an admin. Microsoft turned it into a tool that you don't have to be an admin for anymore. And now I bridge that gap between people who never knew about it or people who know about it but hate it. Because a lot of people don't like SharePoint. So there's that. But um, going on a podcast and talking about tech. So anybody in tech right here, if you're in tech and you're thinking about doing this, I've been told multiple times that SharePoint is something you got to see. It's like better that you see it than you just got to see it to really understand its power. So what I do when I go on shows is, I mean, in real life, I tone down the tech and talk way more about how it affects people. So if you are in the tech industry and you think, I don't know if podcast guesting is for me, I would encourage you to learn how to talk about the benefits that it provides to people versus the technology itself. So there's that. Um, AKA like instead of talking about a microphone and how powerful this microphone is and how good it is, talk about how good that person will sound when they're doing their podcast. You know what I mean? That's what I mean for anybody who's in tech and thinking about that. So yeah, I'm a SharePoint guy, and I did nickname myself Mr. SharePoint, but it was
it's great
reluctantly.
branding.
It's great branding, but it's I recognize, and so do my family, recognize that it's corny. You know what I'm saying? But it works. But it works. So that's it.
Sometimes the best marketing is very corny, and
Yeah.
we lean into it. So
Very.
Thurman found me because he listened to me on a podcast. So
Exactly.
I love it. You heard me on a podcast and you reached out, you booked a call and you signed up. And so
Yep.
talk about now a year and a like we've been working with you for a year and a half. What has your
Mhm.
experience been with podcasts? What are some of the wins and the results you've seen in your business from your visibility as a guest?
Yeah, the number one thing for me is emails. Like I get email signups. Also, I have kind of like a high ticket offer. Now, I mean, I'm not one client is not gonna drop 25K on me, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get there one day. But it is kind of up there. So I don't expect people to, jump out the window and be ready to hand me over their money. But another thing that Catherine did say is that when you get to talk to someone who found you that way, you pretty much have to put your foot in your mouth in order to lose them. You know what I'm saying? You've already built yourself up in a way where it's like you've gotten to speak uninterrupted to someone for an extended period of time, probably 45 minutes, and they now choose to come to you. You know what I'm saying? If you've compelled them, or to Catherine again, I keep referencing Catherine. I just like everything she said. If you are in alignment with what you talk about and what you help people with, then it's like people are tuned into your frequency when you're talking, and then they'll be like, all right, yeah, I want to work with that person. So I mean, I haven't only done it on podcasts, but I've done it on YouTube too. If you got a YouTube channel, knock yourself out, because that's a really, really good place for finding leads. So yeah, emails is the number one thing for me. Working with the team is, again, Catherine said it. My guy is John, you know what I'm saying? But not just one person, there's multiple people inside of the team that will help you. You know what I'm saying? And it's like they have a process. They have really good processes. So it's not like they're just winging it. And a lot of times you will meet somebody like a Jessica who might be the person behind the scenes trying to do everything, but she's not. This is a legit business here with people that have been doing it for a really long time, processes that I saw up front and close to myself, other people, real people who are in the are in the community trying to do the same thing, use podcasts to grow their business. It's I don't I can't find a negative thing to say. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta go searching. to find something negative to say. I can't find anything negative to say. So
Yeah, and I like that you're talking about the email signups because growing your email, like email is huge for us. Like we get so many of our consultations every month we book from emails. You know, people join your email list and then you nurture them over time. So with podcast guesting, you can get people that reach out to you like with Catherine and just say like, yes, I'm ready. You're perfect for me. How do I sign up? And then you're going to get people who just you're going to see this gradual increase in your email list. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I like when you were on hold for a little bit, we were like reworking your one sheet. Didn't you notice that like, wait, I was on hold and then the email list grew and
yeah,
then you
yeah.
got, and so that I've noticed the same thing. If I take a break from podcast guesting, I'm like, oh shoot. The email isn't growing as much. So there is this consistently being visible does consistently grow the email list. And then your email list is who you can sell to because those are the people that are getting your emails that are being nurtured by you. Can you talk a little bit about host relationships and how powerful it is to have these podcast hosts to connect
Man.
with?
Yeah, so this is gonna be this maybe this is not a negative on you. This is a negative on me. Uh Almost every person that I've interviewed with could have been a potential client. The only reason in my opinion, that they're not is because I didn't do my follow up and, you know what I mean, take the steps to be like, hey, let me help you out. Um, I remember when I first signed up, I think it was you, Jess, that said, yeah, a lot of the times our clients find that the people that they host with end up being clients. And I heard that, and I was just like, oh, that'd be cool, but I didn't think nothing of it. But literally, my first interview, she was like, beforehand, like, yeah, I'm really interested in this. And then after we finished, she was like, yeah, we got to schedule a call. This, that, and the third. And I dropped the ball multiple times. I'm being fully honest. But if you have that type of product that could, get you, it'll help people in that industry. If you're going on a podcast, you're obviously aligned in that industry. You might have something that your host might need. So you might end up in that bucket. Um, Man, I'm thinking about that now, and I'm kind of salty at myself. You know what I'm saying? I just
Oh,
remember.
Thurman, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
You can always reach back out to that host. I just
yeah,
put a
true.
link to a podcast that we have that would be great for everyone to listen to. Our client Isaac Ho, who's a sales trainer. So sales trainers are great at this because that's their whole thing is just like they hunt for the sale, they get it. And so, in this podcast episode that I just linked to, Isaac talks about how in that green room, when the host is sharing information with you that implies that they need you and that could really get value from your service, how to then go and say, like, we should get on a call. Let's get on a call. So you can follow up right after this. I'm going to send you a
Yeah.
WhatsApp message and I'll be like, let's go, Thurman. It's okay.
Okay. How much time do I have left? Because I want to make one more point.
Make one more point.
Okay, real quick. So here's what I think would be. I'm gonna give you advice that I would have given myself at the beginning of this. So here's a really good way to know if this is good for you. So think of anything that is big and popular that you know about. And I like to use the NFL too, right? So we all know about the NFL. The NFL's product is football. Like these guys, every week throughout the season, they have to go play football. That's the main thing that they're doing. So you have a main thing, right? Every single thing else that happens around that is just to generate more eyeballs on. It's to get leads. So if you already know what your thing is, what your football is, every tentacle, every arm that comes off of that, all it is you inviting people to come see you play football. So podcasts makes sense if you know what that thing is, and now all you have to do is just put it in this tunnel, put it in this. What do you call that? Is it a vessel? Am I thinking of a vessel? I don't know what
Sure.
word I'm thinking of. I'll go with vessel. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You want to put it inside of a vessel,
Mhm.
and then just you've already been doing it. You've been doing it online. You've been doing it in person. You've been doing it in maybe webinars. All you're doing now is picking yet another arm to talk about the thing that you do and pull people in to come see you play football. That's it. So if you know what your message is, the point of what I'm saying is, if you know what your message is, your message is, like how the NFL knows, they know exactly who they need to get to come watch football. So their messaging is on point. They've been doing it for a billion years. You know your thing inside out, and what messaging works on social media, the same thing is going to work on a podcast. You just have to say it differently for an extended period of time. If you know what that is, get yourself on a, I was about to curse. I'm getting excited. Get yourself on a podcast and give it a shot. You know what I'm
I
saying?
love it.
I'd
Thurman,
recommend it.
thank you so much. You shared so
Thank you.
vulnerably and openly. We're all a work in progress. One of the things I did say, Thurman, on the masterclass this week, I said to everyone, I'm giving you so many tips. You don't need to implement them all right away. It's about
Mhm.
taking, so you've been guesting now for over a year. You're crushing it. You're growing your email list. And just, you've got all these podcast hosts that are ideal clients. So that's just a message and a reminder for everyone. Just improve every single day. I love the book, The Gap and the Gain. I talked about that this morning. Like, just be in the gain of, look how far you've come. So thank you so much for being here. Where can folks connect with you if they need help with SharePoint?
LinkedIn. I'm there almost every day. It used to be every day, but now it's almost every day. You know what I'm saying? Jess, are your eyes green naturally?
Blue.
But they look like they match with your shirt. Is that just me? Does anybody else see that?
I don't
That's
know.
that's crazy. It all looks green from over here. Okay, thank you. Erica saw it. I know I'm not going crazy. All
Thank you,
right, good
Thurman.
deal.
We'll put the link to your LinkedIn in the chat.
All right, yeah, another green. Thank you. All right, I'm not going crazy. All right,
All right. Next
thank
up,
you.
we have the amazing Lauren Elise Rogers. Lauren, come on up.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you. I'm so glad that you could be here. You guys, this is amazing because Lauren at first wasn't able to, and then something shifted in her schedule and she's like, I can make it. I'm like, yay. So please introduce yourself and tell us all the things about your experience working with us over the last year.
I would love to. Hello, everyone. I am Lauren Elise Rogers. I am a sexuality educator and a relationship coach. And Jess is exactly right. I had a back-to-back day today, and then a client rescheduled, and I sent her an email and said, I can be there. I can sing interview connections praises. Catherine and Thurman have both shared such amazing things. They always take the things I'm going to share. But I think for so many of you, possibly on the call today, you, like I, might run a small business. You might be new to entrepreneurship. You might be the one solo person who runs the work that you do. And I was nervous to invest in a company that might not care about my work as much as I care about my work, who might not care about the level of investment that I was making into my business as much as I cared. And I couldn't have been more impressed. The team, and they're saying this too, I think a lot of times you see, yeah, the boss person out front really does give, I'm going to curse, shits about their company, but the staff behind them often don't. And I have been impressed with every single solitary human that I have worked with from day one to now 30 plus podcasts in. I have so enjoyed it for some of the same reasons that Catherine was saying, to be able to drop in and share not just a minute, not just 30 seconds like I do on social media, but a full conversation has been the gift of a lifetime to say, oh my goodness, yes, I can sit here in this is my guest bedroom of my home, and pop in, do an interview, and then pop onto a client 5 minutes later. I don't think there's a price you can pay for that type of marketing. I also come from a comms background. I also come from a theater background. Human connection is really important to me. And I was looking for the holes to be able to poke in this company here, and I couldn't find any. And I asked a lot of questions in the beginning, and a lot of, well, but how can you guarantee? But how can you guarantee? And I've just been so impressed. So that's my intro. But Jess, I can answer any of your questions or I can talk more. You let me know.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so Yeah, I thought I was muted. Yes, thank you so much. It's so beautiful. And yeah, I remember your initial conversations and all the questions. And it has been so wonderful working with you. Our team loves working with you. I mean, like we track how many pitches we send and how many bookings we get. And that's what allows us to guarantee and be super close to a projected pace of, 3 to 4 shows a month. Lauren is consistently getting way more than that because the number of pitches, the percentage, like our success rate, like pitches to bookings, is so much higher with Lauren. She's just so popular. I love it.
We had to say at one point, like, slow down. And
You're like,
again,
pump the
you all, my
brakes.
biggest question was, will you get me on podcast? And then we had to say, slow down. And I want to compliment the team again, because one of the things I heard over and over again was your one sheet is phenomenal. This one sheet that she was talking about earlier is the thing that is sent to your potential bookings. And the way they combed through mine, the way we really worked on what would I really want to say mattered. I had so many hosts tell me, I get pitches from sexuality professionals all the time and I just throw them away. They don't have clarity as to what they want to come on and talk about. And so it's tremendously impactful to have that little one sheet benefit. You might think, oh, I could do this on my own. I know my business, but maybe you don't know podcast hosting. Maybe you don't know the pitching process. And somebody was saying this earlier, that concept that I didn't have to follow up, I didn't have to do all the other things, was so tremendously impactful.
Yeah, I like that you pointed that out because, yes, I am sure everyone here knows their message and knows what their expertise is, but our team, they are on the front lines of sending out pitches. They receive the emails that say, not a fit, or yes, this is a fit, or I like it, but I'm booked up. So they literally, and first of all, as a client, you never have to know who said no to you. So that, like, we protect you from that because rejection is hard and it's dysregulating. And not everyone's going to say yes, but like we handle that. So we're only going to be connecting you with hosts who say yes. But we also now have the intel to know what topics hosts say, oh my God, I never say yes to pitches, but this one got me. And I do want to have your client on the show, which topics fall flat. And so we're able to take your amazing brilliance and expertise and say, this is how I think we should write it. I think this is what's going to have hosts say yes. So it's just about that tweaking the message so it gets hosts interested because they're glancing at your one sheet when we get the pitch to them. And then that one sheet does a lot of the heavy lifting. So I love that you pointed that out.
Tremendously. Another thing I wanted to talk about literally today, because of what happened today, was I just onboarded a brand new client. And one of the things I hadn't considered when I was in the process that so many of you are in today was the other forms of return on investment that might not be as clear. And this is one of them. Countless times someone finds my social media audience, that's one of my biggest platforms, and they become an observer. They become kind of a looky-loo. They're watching, they're considering, they're on the outside. What has happened more than once, and was happened again today, is that someone then clicks on my playlist that I'm consistently posting about, that I have curated from all of my interviews that Interview Connections has gotten me, and they binge it, just like you all do on Netflix. They binge all of these episodes. Now, to me, that would be incredibly boring because I say versions of the same thing over and over and over. But I think what we forget when we are in our expertise is that for someone else, this is reassuring them that we are a subject matter expert, that we know what we're talking about, that we are consistent in our messaging, that we care, that we, excuse my French again, give a shit about the work that we do. And so for this client who came on this morning, she said, so-and-so recommended me to your page, of which I followed for a while, and I really enjoyed your content. Then you started talking about your playlist. I binged all of your podcast episodes. Then I followed different folks that you had connected me to and did some additional research. Then I decided it was time to book a consult with you. And again, one of those easiest, it's not a sell. It doesn't even feel like a sell to me. It feels like, hi, it's good to see you. We belong together. And there has been already this screening process for both of us that's tremendously impactful and important to me in this work that I do, because the field of sexuality has been hyper sensualized and sensationalized. And I'm not interested in that type of client. That's not the one for me. So this way, clients have already decided maybe I'm not a fit for them. And for me, that's also a huge benefit.
I love that so much. One of the things that we talked about in session one of this masterclass is there's three main buckets that, three main ways our clients see an ROI. And one of those is your own audience. And so you
Yes.
just illustrated that so perfectly. Because a lot of people start getting on podcasts and look at podcast guesting as ways like, am I going to have people who hear me, listeners, become my client? But also the fact that you have all of your podcast appearances on a playlist and people who are referred to you, who are following you on Instagram, and then go listen to it. That is huge. Without all those podcast appearances, she may just still be following you on Instagram.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think to that exact point, current clients also follow the playlist, which also sounds in my mind almost ridiculous. I'm like, you get this, you sit with me an hour every 2 weeks. Why would you want to do this? But it's the legitimacy factor. And then they share it with their friends, right? That this is my person. You should listen to this conversation. It builds value in my client's eyes. And it is incredibly, incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that your clients are able to share your podcast appearances because when you're working with a coach, a relationship coach, a sexuality coach, a life coach, to like normies, people that are not in the entrepreneur space that don't like typically invest in coaching, they're like, what's that? And it's like, listen to
Eh,
her podcast. Because it's
yes.
hard to explain this type of work, you know? I love that.
Yeah. And then the last thing, and I've shared this with you before and on calls like this before, that I had undervalued personally before coming into this work was the gift it would be to sit with others in our field in pre-screened conversations that would validate and affirm the work I'm doing. I think for those of us in our field, we might be the only one in our sector who interfaces with clients. And so it can feel a little lonely up in here. And so it can be so lovely to sit with someone else in the field who you get to have a juicy, rich, aligned conversation with that is incredibly stimulating and incredibly encouraging and again validating. I had totally not considered how encouraged I would feel as a business owner, as a person in the sexuality space by these interviews. And so when I think of, yes, we invest in interview connections and it's a service that they are providing for us, it is oftentimes that I get off of these interviews and I feel great, which is such a gift.
Yes, I talked about like the creative juices
Yeah.
flow, and it's so fun because we don't always make time to just, you've already made this an explicit podcast. Shoot the shit.
Yeah.
Wait, how
Sorry.
often do we?
Sorry, everyone.
Okay. How often do we get on Zoom with another business owner
Yeah.
and just chit chat? Like
Yes.
I don't have time for that. I'm on
No.
calls all day. Like, and it's, just don't have time for it. But when we're on a podcast and people are listening, it's now a win-win-win. Like it's a win for everyone. So I love that. Lauren, I'm sure you have so much more you can say, but where can everyone find you online and connect with you?
Yeah, I'll put my Instagram in the chat. I'm definitely active on that platform, just sex_ed_for_you. And you can go to sexedforyou.com/connect if you want to know more about me, either working with me or following my podcast that I have with my partner. You'll see that infamous playlist there as well of all my interviews. And that was a tip that came from Interview Connections, y'all. So in closing, I will say that they continue to add value to your quote unquote package throughout your entire work with them. It's not like you get something up front. No, no, no. I continued to drop into calls like this, got feedback on my landing page, got recommendations of things like playlists. And I don't know if I've ever worked with a company like that before. So thank you for having me here today. And yeah, find me on Instagram or go to sexedforyou.com/connect.
Awesome. There's one more question. Do you have to run, Lauren? Or do you
No,
have a
no, I'm okay. They're gonna just be
Okay,
on Zoom
so
still.
there's a question I'd love you to touch on, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to ask other speakers too, including Dinah, who's up next. So Lori asks, what do you do if your previous guesting experience is limited? Is that an obstacle that is difficult to overcome?
You know, I almost spoke to this because somebody said in the chat, voice coaching and almost being in front of camera and on interviews would be positive. And I was going to send Jess a message after this to be like, hey, you should let me offer something like that at some point, because I do think some form of media training
Yeah.
is great. I would look into that. If that is a point of nervousness for you, I would do the work to find some type of speaking coach, to put yourself in a program to, I know Masterclass, the thing online, has some incredible different ways in which you could practice guesting or have someone that you know and love. I'm all about a free option because nothing needs to cost us money. Have someone you know read some questions that they put into ChatGPT to you and do some live interviewing. You can record yourself on Zoom. This is a technique I do and we used in the theater all the time. Record yourself having a conversation, then watch yourself back. I do think that some form of practice is important. And then I would say, give yourself grace. This doesn't
Yeah.
need to be perfect. Catherine was saying this earlier. This kind of having a human conversation, a vulnerable human conversation, is truly valuable. I think there's a lot of flashy stuff out there on social media and in marketing. And don't undermine the value of you just being an authentic person. So, yeah, there's the both and there.
I love that. Thank you so much, Lauren. All right, next up we have Dinah. Hi, Dinah. Come on up to the stage. And
Hi,
everyone's
Jess.
Yes, everyone schedule a consultation call. We'll put that in the link again, interviewconnections.com/call. Okay. Hi, Dinah. Please introduce yourself to everyone and tell us all about your experience podcast guesting, about your business, where you were when you first got started, and what it's been like.
Sure. Yeah, so I am a health coach and I specialize in helping women navigate some of the challenges around perimenopause. And I started that with just sort of, lifestyle approaches. And then I kind of stumbled into functional medicine testing, which takes all the guesswork out of what all these symptoms are all about. And usually it's a couple of things. It's not usually just hormones or, just gut or whatever. So this is kind of makes me very excited that we can get to these issues very quickly using some really fantastic tools. So I've been in this field for, I guess, about 6 years or so. I used to work in corporate, in tech marketing and communications. And then when I was exited at age 50 or so, I decided I needed to find something else that was not age discriminatory, where my age was actually, working to my benefit. And so I decided to take my own perimenopause challenge and turn it into sort of a help factor for, for other women who are facing this and really struggling. So, here I am. It's the sort of topic that people don't really want to talk about, right? It's kind of a taboo topic. So being able to find a platform where you can talk about it at length and with some probing questions, and I'm perfectly fine sharing my own details, but often other people are reluctant or not amused to share their own. So in a safe platform like a podcast, it's a perfect place to share the stories, to talk about why this is such a great development, because women are generally very underserved from the traditional medical community.
Yeah.
So most doctors, in fact, 80% of doctors don't know really anything about it. It's not on the curriculum in med school. So doctors are really not, well equipped to support women. So this provides another avenue. Now, I am only partway through my package here. I have done 5 interviews, and those 5 have been wonderful interviews. We've clicked beautifully in everyone. And the very first one, the podcast host was intrigued. We were talking about parasites, which is one of these mystery symptoms that, a lot of people have. Something like 30 to 40% of Americans have parasites and don't know it, and they can cause these mystery symptoms. And so she was really intrigued and so excited. She wanted to test my product. And so there's a detox product that I offer that is very different than than what traditional medicine offers. So she is currently finishing off that test, and so that's kind of kind of exciting. And she wants to write a review and a recommendation, so that will be kind of fun. And then the second interview that I did, she was telling everyone on the podcast that you have to book a consultation with Dinah because, you are missing so much if you do, and you got to do this. And she said, I'm first. And so she did. She booked a consultation. And so that was kind of great. She didn't have enough symptoms to warrant functional medicine testing. But she said, I know who to call when I do. And so that was lovely. And then I also got another discovery call from her directive saying call. And so that was kind of kind of great. We've spoken, and she definitely wants to do it, and now she's getting the money together so that she can proceed. So that's kind of a nice introduction, that all within a week of starting all this, there was already that activity and that kind of interest.
That's amazing. It just really shows the power of educating your target audience, who you
Yeah.
are, what you do, providing value, and then saying, and here's how I can help you. And having hosts edify you is so powerful. For that host to tell their audience, you should all book a call and I'm going to do it too. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
much every host is going to do that because they wouldn't have you on the podcast if they didn't believe in what you do. So it's so powerful to have hosts edify you.
Yeah.
Dinah, we're running close on time. So I want you to tell everyone how they can find you. Maybe they want to get some functional medicine testing and talk to you and have a discovery call. So where can folks find you online?
Yes. So there are several places, but I'll give my website, and that's holisticnutritionlifestyle.com, and I can just drop the URL in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dinah. All right. So, podcast guesting can be a slow burn. I talk about that a lot. It's not always instantaneous, but there's so much evidence to show just with this panel alone how it can be very quick. And it's about the belief too. The belief that if you know when you speak to your target audience, they'll want to work with you, then take action and get booked on podcasts. Book a call at interviewconnections.com/call. So I'm so excited. Our finale is with Dr. Jolie Hamilton, who has been working with us since 2020. She is in her 5th year with us. Dr. Jolie, please. Oh, I got to ask you to unmute. Come on up on stage. I'm so excited that you're able to join us.
Hey, hey. Oh my goodness. It's so good to be with you, Jess. I feel like, yeah, like we're just in each other's lives at this point because I've been
Yes.
around the block with you. Because it
I
works.
love you.
Because it works.
It works. So I know you could probably speak for way longer than 5 minutes here because you have such a great story with podcast guesting, but give us all the who you are, of course, and what you do, and then the highlights.
Well, I am Dr. Jolie Hamilton. My thing is that I help people go from a monogamous paradigm to a non-monogamous paradigm, a conscious path toward something that most people are like, ooh, that sounds a little scary. When I got into this, I did not actually know that I was going to focus down on non-monogamy. So, Jess, it's actually been through this, like through working with so many podcast hosts over 5 years that I honed my message. And that first year was weird. It was really all about like, talking is thinking, like honing that my ideas is thinking. It matters. And so honestly, who I am and what I offer and how I help people today grew out of doing this work.
Yeah, because you were in a transitional period. You had previously had, a therapy practice.
Well, I actually was focused specifically also on helping people in relationships, but like another market altogether. I was doing entrepreneurial relationships. It's just a completely different thing. And I've been non-monogamous for 16 plus years, but that didn't mean I wasn't sure I wanted to make that my focus.
Yeah.
But you talk to enough people who are in their struggles and realize, oh, the tools and techniques that I use in all of my relationships, my folks who are going through big transition, they need them. They need those tools. And they need to hear the story of success, because when you're doing paradigm shift in a relationship, a lot of things can go wrong. A lot of things can go really hard, and they needed to hear story. So it's not enough just to say, oh, I can fix that. It's no, here's the story of how other people have addressed this, have done this hard, hard thing, because it's completely doable, but not if you've never had any model.
Yeah. And I know because you have your own podcast, Playing with Fire, such a
Yeah.
fire name. And you have, you're doing so much podcast guesting. You've gotten traditional media outlets, so many traditional media outlets reach out to you. Dr. Sanjay Gupta reached out to you and brought you on his podcast. So much has come. I would love for you to touch on how being a guest, the act of being interviewed, has helped you hone your message. Maybe you could speak to, I don't know if you were here when we read Lori's question about like if you didn't have a lot of guesting experience, how just getting on the court, playing the game can really help.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it was that. It was I had speaking experience. I had actually even been on a TEDx stage, but prepping and training for live speaking on stages is different because you have a big audience in front of you. So I did have some skills coming in, but this was a new skill, and also it required me to get clear on, do I want to bring my story? Do I want to bring case studies? How do I want to do this? And there's nothing like just getting in and doing it. My first interview went live in December of 2020. And I remember thinking back a year later, like, oh, that is not how I would do that now. But I'm so glad I did. It was that first whole package I felt like was a year of discovery. It was a year of finding myself, and my own podcast also got better. My interview skills got better. My podcast is largely a conversation between myself and my nesting partner, my husband. Everything changed about that too. So the ways that this increased the benefits to my business were not necessarily just in ROI. They were in ROI as well, but it was all the stuff I didn't expect that really paid off.
Yeah. And can you share some successes, some wins, and how? Because I know like a big thing that holds people back is like, am I going to see an ROI? What does the ROI look like? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So first off, I truly believe in patience in this strategy. I believe in the long game. So when I came in, I made the decision to say, I'm going to do this for at least 3 years. I'm going to commit to podcast guesting. That was my choice. I know it sounds a little like, whoa, 3 years, but I knew through other experiences that I was going to need time to figure out exactly what I was doing, and also to build my business and then to let myself see the payoff. Now, I did have a secret out plan. I was like, if I see no ROI at 18 months, I don't know. That would be hard. I don't know whether I'll keep going. And it was month 11. Month 11 was when I started to see everything shift. We'd been like episodes were coming out regularly. I started getting a stronger stance. I understood what my call to action was. I also learned I have multiple calls to action. I don't have just one. I have multiple. I match it to what we've wound up talking about. So that started to get stronger. And yeah, I saw my first 80K month in that 11th month. And I was like, oh, okay, this worked. That was way more than I expected. And it came out of like sticking with the process. And it's not like it was just 80 and then, oh, forever. It's an entrepreneurial roller coaster. But this could be also the steady wheel. It's like the flywheel that was running behind the scenes all the time.
Yeah. And how has it been networking with podcast hosts? Because that's something we talk so much about.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I tend to be the kind of person who blows a podcast host's mind. Often they're like, okay, I do want to talk about this, but whoa, what about the jealousy? What about how can you handle your partner doing that? How do you even make agreements for this? So It's been interesting because yeah, I've had some clients who have come directly out of like, oh, I had you on my podcast, and here's the secret: I actually need you myself. That is true, but I've really just enjoyed being the person who stretches their imagination, because often what I see is as they're talking to me, they start to realize that this is good non-monogamy skills are just good relationship skills. So it also starts to normalize a population that has been marginalized. And if I can do that with like host to host, like if I can just like share with the host and get them on board with like, yeah, this is just an alternative to the traditional relationship structure that you're used to, that in itself is a huge win for me, like for my own ethical code, for my own like being in the world. Beyond just monetary ROI, I feel how that work really starts to change people's experience of life.
Yeah, I love that. And I want anyone, if you have questions or if there's any, like, what's holding you back, put it in the chat because Lori's question was really great. If there's any questions or concerns that you have that are keeping you from booking a call, put them in the chat because we have this amazing panel here and this is our last live session. I love that you talked about matching the call to action. Like you have your quiz, which I
Yep.
used your quiz. So no, wait, I didn't use your quiz. I used your date. I
You
didn't use your quiz.
use the date. Yeah, you wouldn't use my quiz, so you wouldn't be my
I don't
target
want to open
audience.
my relationship, but I did like your
Exactly.
traditional relationship.
I love this. Jess, I know your husband. I know your deal. My quiz wouldn't be for you,
No.
but
What is the quiz for those who are not in our joke right now?
yeah, it's joliequiz.com. You go there. It's a 10-question quiz that I based out of my doctoral research that'll help you figure out where you are in your answering the question, can I open up my relationship happily? Could I do this well? Not everybody is ready to do that, and that's totally okay. So the thing is, too, sometimes I go on and I'm talking about my doctoral research and jealousy, and that's the primary focus. That's great. I love getting that out there. Also, jealousy is a primary topic within the rest of my work, within the year of opening. But when I'm talking to a host, if we've focused on jealousy the whole time and they've never asked me about non-monogamy, because I study jealousy in both monogamous and non-monogamous contexts, well, then great. Then I'll give them jealousyroadmap.com. I can just slip that right in. It gets them into also a slightly different funnel, right? Because I want people to come in and be nurtured where they're at. And my work is bigger than just my I have a flagship program called the Year of Opening. It matters to me that people come into my salon, which is the 5 pillars of successful open relating. I want people to come through there and find the Year of Opening, but I also have secret menu options. I run a program called Individuation Alchemy. I'm a Jungian psychologist, so I also have these other options. So sometimes people hear me on a podcast and they're like, well, I don't want to open my relationship, but I definitely want to work with her. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but Jolie's got something for me. I need to know what that is. There are other ways, but I have really loved that podcasting gets me the opportunity to talk to people and like really tone my message to match their audience and without having to build whole separate businesses. I'm me. I'm talking to people. If I'm a match for them, they'll feel it.
Yeah, I love that. Tiffany asked, how long did it take for you to get clients from guest podcasting? I
Oh,
replied, I said month 11, but if you want to expand on that.
yeah, it was actually the first one came earlier. I was doing primarily one-to-one coaching at that point, or 2-to-1 or 3-to-1, depending on, I was doing private coaching. I did get my first one actually came in month 4, and then I got another one that was a shorter term client in month 5. And that kind of just held. It wasn't a ton. There wasn't a lot of traction with my private work. And that made sense because actually, as I was developing my message, I realized, oh, this needs to be a community oriented learning. And so I actually introduced a group learning environment where we form small cohorts. And that I have gotten, well, almost every single person who gets on a call with me, a discovery call with me, when I ask them, where did you first find my work? Almost universal answer, you were on a podcast I was listening to.
I
So
love it.
all 250 people who've been through my program in the last 3 years, all of them.
That's incredible. And Tiffany asked about Catherine and Thurman. Thurman had to hop off, but you can message him on LinkedIn. And Catherine said it was her 4th podcast interview that got her a client. So so like our whole panel here spoke to just honestly surprisingly how quickly the results started coming in and how it builds. And of course, we'll never be able to say like results aren't typical. Like we can't promise when it's going to happen, but what I can promise is that it won't happen unless you start. You do have to get in the game. You do have to start getting on podcasts for you to see clients from podcast guesting. So go to interviewconnections.com/call to schedule a call with me to learn about getting started. So Dr. Jolie Hamilton, where can everyone find you online?
Oh, it's easiest just to find me at joliehamilton.com. You can also find me on all the socials. I'm Dr. Jolie_Hamilton. And, I know my thing isn't for everyone. So I just want to say I'm so grateful that Interview Connections the whole time has supported my business that is not traditional, doesn't necessarily fit into any box. I'm queer. I don't fit into boxes. And it's been so fantastic to work with a company who will meet me as me and not attempt to sanitize my message. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. We are not here to sanitize anyone's message. I love that. So yeah, if you're not sure if this is the right fit or if you know it is, but you're scared to book a call, schedule a consultation call at interviewconnections.com/call. Our discounts and our bonus gifts end on Monday, September 15th. So schedule your call now. Thank you all so much for being here live. Thank you to all of our speakers, and thank you to all watching this on replay. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.